Welcome back to another episode of the WatchWell Podcast. My name is Parker, and as always, this is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how was your week?
It's awkward right now because, we're recording two of these at the same time. But great week. I don't know what the week held because it hasn't happened yet. So,
Right. Yeah, as Nick said, we're recording this in advance. We're trying to do more recordings in person. We think it's just better to be together talking about movies and theology and faith and all of those things. That's just what we love to do. So I just want to repeat this. We're trying to do a better job at doing some housekeeping stuff at the beginning of each episode. And if you're a movie buff and you're serious about your Christian faith, this podcast is definitely for you. That's what we do is we watch movies and then we talk about them. We relate it back to the Bible and we discuss how the movie proves the Bible true, essentially. Right? Generally speaking.
Absolutely, yeah.
Before we get into anything else, I want to ask you to go to our Facebook page, like and follow. We're trying to build our Facebook reach up, engagement up. Don't be afraid to comment your opinions and perspectives on the movies. We want to hear you guys tell us what you think too. Head on over to Instagram and Twitter as well. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We've got other content coming out soon on those platforms. And if you want to follow me, Real Parker Brown at Twitter, or Real Parker Brown on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter. So yeah, give us a follow, and we'd love to hear you guys' opinions. Other than that, we can get right into the movie. We're going to go over The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman, yeah. Greatest Showman was released in 2017, so it's about 7 years old now. It's rated PG, and prior to, I'm not sure what order some of these are being released in, but prior to Wonka, which we also have reviewed now, this was the number one live-action, non-Disney remake musical at the box office. So it was a very popular movie.
I feel like I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, I think I said it in Wonka. So we'll see, yeah. About I don't know, what was it?
An hour ago?
An hour ago? Yeah, I think I said those same words and stumbled over them the exact same way.
No, you did great. You're killing it.
So just for some context here, $429 million at the worldwide box office. I won't get into domestic and everything like that and international and break it down, but very well-loved movie, The Greatest Showman. IMDb rating 7.5, which is pretty good. Not incredibly high, but pretty good. Where there's some discrepancy, though, is Rotten Tomatoes, critics 56%, audience 86%. The consensus is The Greatest Showman tries hard to dazzle. This is critics. The Greatest Showman tries hard to dazzle the audience with a Barnum-style sense of wonder, but at the expense of its complex subjects, far more intriguing real-life story. So that's the critical consensus, which is obviously not incredibly positive. So there's things that they don't like about the movie. The synopsis: growing up in the early 1800s, P.T. Barnum displays a natural talent for publicity and promotion, selling lottery tickets by age 12. After trying his hand at various jobs, P.T. turns to show business to indulge his limitless imagination, rising from nothing to create the Barnum and Bailey Circus, featuring catchy musical numbers, exotic performers, and daring acrobatic feats. Barnum's mesmerizing spectacle soon takes the world by storm to become the greatest show on earth. Any thoughts on any of that stuff that we just mentioned?
Nope.
All right.
That's about as plain as you can say.
Yeah. Yep. Any thoughts on the critics? 56, does that sound reasonable? Or does that overly critical for various reasons, whatever those reasons might be?
I think it's overly critical, but I don't know why.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know why. I would need to know more information about each critic comment,
right?
To know
each thing that they criticize and things like that. Yeah. We might get into that a little bit when we give our own reviews
maybe
of the film, maybe. But so we started this with Wonka, looking at the directors and filmmakers and important people who are involved in making the film. So I want to dive deep. All right, I want to go deep into the history of the director of The Greatest Showman. All right. I want to read you his entire filmography.
Okay.
All right. This is every film that he has ever directed for any type of, so every feature length film that he has ever directed. You ready?
Hang on. I'm guessing there's only 3 movies, 2 or 3 movies. Based on the way you're setting this up, I'm guessing there's like less than 5.
Okay. Just let me read the list, all right? And we can see how this goes.
All right.
All right, so I'll just start with number 1, The Greatest Showman.
I wasn't too far off.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the only one on the list. So the director of The Greatest Showman is Michael Gracie.
Okay.
And it looks like the only other film that he has directed that has been in theaters was actually a concert film.
Oh, interesting.
And it was Pink. The recording artist Pink.
Interesting.
And that was released in 21. So that was several years after The Greatest Showman. It looks like he has a lot of history in music. So
like Broadway?
even though he's not, I don't know about Broadway. That would actually be interesting to look up. I'm not sure about Broadway, but like music videos and things like that. So in that regard, he's probably a good fit, and he was a good fit, was a good fit for a movie like The Greatest Showman. But because he doesn't have a lot of previous work, it's hard to like dig into that and dive in and like what are trends in his work. Because when you're making a music video, you're doing what the artist wants, right? You're doing it to their specifications, and you might have some creative freedom. There might be some decisions that you're able to make, but you're really trying to match what the musician's vision is. Same with a concert film. I'm sure there's a lot of creativity that goes into making a concert film and shooting it, and like what shots you want and all kinds of things like that. But it's really what the artist wants, right? It's really their vision for the concert film. I might be wrong, but that's my perception about what that would be. So it's hard to, okay, so what kind of worldviews or what kind of messages would he be trying to convey as a filmmaker? There's just not a lot that you can
to know.
get into from that. So, so his background, The Greatest Showman, and then music videos, and that's it. So that being said, what's your review of The Greatest Showman?
I think there was a lot of I don't know. I really enjoy it. I like it a lot. I love the music. I do have to say that I think that there's some hinting at, based off the nature of the story, I think they used it as a way to implement like inclusion in some subtle ways, but I overlooked it, and I still really like the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just some initial ideas.
What's your favorite song?
Probably the bar one. Put the offer out.
Yeah, it's the negotiation, right?
What's it? Yeah, it's
The Other Side.
The Other Side. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite songs too. But
and then Million Dreams.
Yeah, I do like that one. My daughter loves that one. She sings it. She loves all the music in this movie. So I actually, it took me 7 years after this came out to watch it.
Really?
And I had no intent of ever watching it, not because it just didn't really interest me. Like, I had heard good things. People have told me how great of a movie it was, how much fun it was, and how good the music was, but it didn't really pique my interest, so I had no intention to ever watch it until I think it was you suggested doing it on the podcast. So then I bought the 4K Blu-ray, had the best sound possible, put it in and on our TV at home and watched it for the first time, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Like the way the first song of the entire
from that moment on,
that bass starts hitting like boom.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the best introduction to a movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah. And I think I told Katie that and my wife, that as far as music goes, this is by far the best music I've ever seen or heard in any movie.
Yeah.
Like, all musicals. I don't think there's a single, like, I've listened to this. I went on a work trip that was like a 3-hour drive about a month ago, and I listened to the songs from The Greatest Showman because they're just good songs.
They are.
And I started scouring YouTube, not on purpose, but my algorithm kind of changed when I was listening to some of that stuff. So that all these covers popped up of artists doing like a heavy metal version of The Greatest Show, and like I'm listening to all of those, and that's kind of how you know you have a good song, that you can fit it into multiple genres and it's still a great song. Like, I just think that the music is absolutely fantastic.
Like, I don't know if they could have made it any better.
I don't think they could have. I don't think they missed on
like,
anything.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here and I'm regretting my answer to my favorite song as I'm thinking about the movie. I said The Other Side, and then I just brought up the very first one, The Greatest Show.
Yeah.
And then I really like the song between Zac Efron and Zendaya.
Rewrite the Stars.
Rewrite the Stars. Yeah, I love that song.
And then even the way, like, from a filming standpoint, the way they shoot that.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't think they could have improved any of the songs, the songwriting. I don't know who wrote them. I don't know who was hired or what songwriters they had, but they were incredible. They did an absolutely fantastic job.
Have you seen, since you took so long to watch it, I don't know, maybe you've seen it regardless because you're into like movie facts and stuff, but have you seen when it was about to be released or just after it was released, the video on YouTube of Hugh Jackman? And I'm probably going to butcher this story a little bit because it's been years since I've seen it. So if you're watching and you know the story, you can comment below and correct me if I'm wrong here. But I believe they flew some of the writers out, and they were going to show some of the songs. And I think something happened to Hugh Jackman's nose. I think he had some surgery or something with his face to where he wasn't allowed to sing. Okay? Mm-hmm. But they were going out and they were doing it, and the video is like super it's like kind of emotional because they were feeling the music and they were singing, and like he started singing and he just kind of kept going, and like he started to bleed out of his face because he was singing, and he was singing like real, but he was like, they were all so caught up in the song. And like it was kind of like a heartfelt kind of moment video thing. So if you haven't seen it, I'll go and look at it, and maybe in post I'll put it somewhere in the bottom of the screen and show it as I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've never seen it,
but it's pretty cool. It's a cool story where he wasn't supposed to sing. There was something I'm butchering it, but there was something about that he was not supposed to sing, and then as he was singing, he started bleeding.
It sounds like that could be the plot for like, if not a movie, for at least an episode of a sitcom.
Yeah, I always thought Wolverine would like self-heal.
Right, yeah.
Not bleed while he's singing, but maybe, maybe that only works when he's in an X-Men movie or...
Yeah, since you brought up Wolverine, I think this movie is probably much closer to Hugh Jackman's actual personality than Wolverine.
Absolutely.
Like, he's not the... Like, obviously I don't know him. We're not tight. I don't know Hugh Jackman, but
I was texting him last night.
Yeah. I would. I wouldn't have a problem, but I don't even know what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, he's not like the
burly guy.
Like the burly,
he's not hanging out with Jason Statham in The Rock.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't seem like that kind.
No.
Well, he might be. I don't know, but
I'm just saying
he just doesn't fit that category, like that image in real life, even though...
Who's the guy that does all the Kingsman movies? The British guy.
The Kingsman. I haven't seen him, so I don't
know. Colin Farrell. Is that his name? Colin Farrell?
Colin Farrell is who played the Penguin in the Batman?
No, not Colin Farrell. I think I'm close. I'm going to look it up real quick.
Okay. The Kingsman.
I think he also played in The King's Speech.
Colin Firth?
Yeah. Colin Firth.
He's in The Kingsman?
Isn't that the same guy, or is that a different guy?
I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see what you bring up. Yeah, Colin Firth was the main guy in the King's Speech.
Kingsman Secret? Yeah, Kingsman.
Okay, so yeah, he's in it.
Guy. Harry Hart. Yep.
Yeah.
So
what category was he fitting in your head?
Like Hugh Jackman would hang out with him more so than like Dwayne Johnson.
Right, yeah, he doesn't, his real life image isn't
he
like
seems more proper.
Superhero,
yeah, he's not like
he's a theater guy.
He is a theater guy.
Yeah.
And he's like amazing.
Yeah. And he's great in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good. Like this movie was like for him. Like if there was a role to write for a like Broadway performing actor, it was this and Hugh Jackman.
Was he in Les Mis? I didn't see it, so I don't know.
I don't know.
I think I remember seeing his picture related to that. So here's another thing you can search on IMDb.
Yep, Les Mis.
Yeah, he was. Okay.
I've never seen Les Mis.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been in like 7 Wolverine movies.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway.
He was in Free Guy?
He was a masked player in Alley. It's just the voice of a player.
I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've seen that. Yeah. But so yeah, regardless. Review is so the positives, the music is incredible. Some of the choreography, all of that stuff is incredible.
I even think the story itself.
See, I agree that the idea of their story is great. And I agree that the way they were trying to do it is probably the best way. But if I'm just stepping back and getting rid of the music, it's incredibly surface level. But I think, so like that could be a criticism, but I think it's because it's what they wanted.
Well, I think it's because they only have so much time on screen to span that long of a time.
Right.
Long of a time. You know, I did a review with Jason Cork, one of my buddies, in released today. No.
Yeah.
No. It was released.
I guess it is. It was yesterday.
It was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Last week. Somewhere around there. It was released.
It was released last week because I think there were 3 weeks this past month. But anyway, we did Mr. Holland's Opus, and that was like a long movie, and it was his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It was over the guy's whole life. So this movie, I think, may to your point, have stayed a little bit more superficial because it was over a very long period of his life.
Yeah.
And there's only so much you can do when you're on screen.
Yeah. So I did read a couple reviews, and it seemed like, and I skimmed over lots of others, but it seemed like every criticism or every negative review that I read, they really just wanted them to make a completely different movie. Like they weren't criticizing this film and what they were trying to do with making this film. They were criticizing the fact that it wasn't an actual biography about P.T. Barnum, that it wasn't a historically accurate thing, where in these critics' mind or these writers' minds, it would have been a much better movie, a much better film, had they actually adapted P.T. Barnum's life to a film, rather than making it this fun, lighthearted thing where he's just this great guy. Because I guess
that's why nobody likes critics.
The real life story is one where he's like, there's just a lot more gray in him, like a lot more flaws. I guess I haven't researched it, but that's what they were saying. Is that
movie would not have done what this movie did at the box office if they did that. Right.
Yeah. And that's not the type of movie that they set out to make to begin with.
Right. Critics just want something different than the audience does.
Yeah. And so I would compare it to you could compare I'm saying a lot. It's coming out a lot because I don't know what I'm saying, but compare I think if you go back to 2007, 2 movies that came out, you had 2 action movies that came out that were insanely popular. You had the first Transformers, and then you had the Bourne Ultimatum.
Yeah.
The first Transformers, you could make criticism just looking at it as its own self-contained thing. You could make criticisms about the story. You could make criticisms about, like, did they really need those jokes? Did it really help out? Like, just certain things like that. But you shouldn't criticize Transformers because it's not the Bourne Ultimatum, right? Because those are 2 different things that they set out to make 2 entirely different types of movies. So I think it's kind of strange to me to criticize The Greatest Showman because it's not a different movie. Right, because it's
Makes
not.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I think it gets some of the critical feedback that it does. It's because they wanted a different movie.
I think it's because I think they wanted to more so personify the way he viewed the world and the way he viewed. Maybe it's just more they wanted to personify his personify. I don't even know if that's the right word, but his ambition, visualize his ambition, and it was full of wonder and electricity, and it was almost as if the movie was his story through a dream, and I think that's why it's so captivating.
Yeah,
it's like if you could dream a story. And it was his story. That I think that's what it would look like, in like a musical style, and the songs like just matched really well, and telling the story through the songs. But yeah, that's the big thing that I take away from it is just they captured the wonder of his ambition and his struggle and the highs and lows really well. And entrepreneurship really well, like that kind of thing. But even entrepreneurship in a undesired category, because they were always looked down upon, even though he was as rich as everybody else. It's like, we don't pick up peanut shells, peanuts, the little girls. And then it's like, he's an entrepreneur and he's doing all this great stuff and he's still not accepted because it's not in another business category. It's the circus, right?
Yeah, it's the circus. Just another place. Like taking it, you might be successful.
Those critics would fit in with the critic in the movie though.
Yeah,
they would.
They would. Yeah.
But what's good is like he had a good relationship with that guy, and he
ended up that way.
Yeah, and that's why it's good that he he's had a knack for publicity because he took what a lot of that critic said and turned it into a positive.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but Zac Efron's character Carlisle is completely fictional.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not even. There's not anybody
because of the way the movie is. I assume most of it is fictional.
Yeah, and
but it's still great, and I love it.
So it's probably it's the Barnum Bailey circus,
right?
But there's nobody in the film named Bailey,
right? Okay.
So the idea is probably that Carlisle is based on Bailey.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So yeah. It's obviously not when you do that, when you change characters' names and you add certain elements like that, they're not trying to make. They didn't set out to make a historically accurate account.
Right, it's historical
of someone's
fiction.
life. Yeah, it's historical fiction, but even more so, they're setting out to give the audience a message through this piece of historical fiction, using this real life person as kind of the catalyst for that message.
Right.
Because if they just wanted to tell a story about an entrepreneur, they could have made it complete fiction, right? They could have written a completely original story from scratch, not worried about it, putting it in the context of P.T. Barnum.
Right.
If they wanted to write a biography, then they would have written a biography or a biopic. So, what they did was they took the concept and the idea of his ambition and certain aspects of his journey, and then sensationalize that in a fictional way in order to present a message or present something
Right.
to the audience. So, before I get into anything else, I do want to say that I think Zac Efron is the MVP of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think?
And I will even, so I said this to Katie, and it might be a little embarrassing, but I don't think so. I think Zac Efron might be one of the most underrated actors that exists today, because I think he is actually incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Beyond just like, he gets a bad rap because he started, High School Musical and things like that. But I think he's actually a talented actor, and you're kind of seeing that come around a little bit. He's had some movies recently, like he played Ted Bundy. Yeah.
Walk of Fame or whatever it is.
He had a recent movie called The Iron Claw that was pretty well received. I haven't seen it.
Dude, he did phenomenal in the Ted Bundy.
I bet he did.
Oh my gosh, he was so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's starting to come around a little bit
movie
to...
is called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I think I've watched it twice because I watched it and I was like, that was so good. And I immediately watched it again.
I want to watch it.
It's so good. We should review it.
I think it's on, isn't it on Netflix?
I think it was at one point.
I think it was a Netflix original, though.
Hulu, maybe?
I think it's a Netflix original.
Maybe it is.
So
it's so good.
Yeah, we should do that
such a phenomenal job.
Yeah. But anyway, Zac Efron, I think, is a great actor. I think he's up there with
I don't know if
some of the best.
I would agree that he's probably underrated because of his High School Musical stuff, because he's not often thought of.
Mm-hmm.
But he is very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I guess I would say, like, so when you think of like the X Factor, so I have this conversation with my brother and my dad all the time, and we talk about.
I'm just gonna sit back and listen then.
No, I have it. So it'd be good to hear your opinion. But like when you think of like the best actor ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not the best actor. Let me frame. I'm gonna make sure I do this justice to frame it. But like when you talk about the best, I forget how we frame it, but it's like the best, like X Factor, he can do it all person, right? Sing, dance, act, perform, like all of these things, who can do it all, right? Who come to mind? Because I tend to agree when you're talking about the whole gamut of music talent, acting, dancing, those types of things. If you're talking about like all of those as skills, who are you putting in maybe like a top 5 or maybe a top 3?
Wow, I don't know.
You want me to help you out a little bit just to
let
give
me
you
know
something
who
to
you-
shoot at? So Jamie Foxx is often listed number 1 because he can do it all.
Yeah, but
I would say
as an actor, he hasn't really I mean, he can obviously sing. He's been a recording artist, but
he
hasn't starred in musicals as an actor.
Well, Ray, he did really well at Ray.
Right, but that was him.
Well, I mean, not
So,
like it's not a stereotypical musical, but like,
Right.
I don't. It would be interesting to see Broadway because I don't have anything off the top of my head musical wise, but like he can sing, man.
Yeah,
he's so good.
Has he done anything?
We can look it up.
Yeah.
I would say like John Travolta has to be up there, like in his early days. And I would say Zac Efron.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about that, like you're not putting most actors in that class of performing ability.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, there's some.
Like you can't even put Tom Hanks in that list.
No, because he doesn't do musicals. He doesn't.
Right.
To my knowledge, he doesn't sing.
But maybe Hugh Jackman would be.
Maybe. But he's not quite as versatile other than switching between Wolverine and musicals. Like, I don't think he's quite as... He doesn't have quite the range as just an actor.
Like, yeah. I'm just it's really hard category to put everything because like
it is.
you'd see like singers and performers come from that world over to acting. So like Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
Yeah.
Like if you watch
1883.
1883, they're
yeah. Tim McGraw is really good.
very good.
Yeah.
So, but I still don't know if he's like that good because he was in like Friday Night Lights and he was in some other movies. Tim McGraw was, he's the drunk, angry dad, and he did phenomenal in that movie too. But I don't know if he's a Jamie Foxx or a John Travolta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
John Travolta from, was it Saturday Night Fever?
Yeah. And Grease
to The Taking of Pelham 123.
Right.
Like, that's such a wide range.
Yeah. Hairspray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have to be the names that you mentioned. What about for females? Is there anyone that would fit that? Maybe Emily Blunt. She was in Into the Woods. And she's a good singer.
Maybe.
Not a lot of dancing and things like that. If you're talking about like the whole thing,
package.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
Maybe, based on The Greatest Showman, maybe Zendaya.
Maybe.
Because she's incredible in The Greatest Showman as well.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Like, maybe, probably not, but, like, the only thought that comes to mind is Amanda Seyfried because she was in Mamma Mia, and then she was in Ted 1 and 2.
Never seen either one of those.
And then some of the, early horror or some of the other stuff that she did, I don't know. It's a very hard category to pick people because it's so upper echelon, it seems,
Yeah.
And I know that's a little off topic, but we're talking about Zac Efron and
yeah,
how versatile and how good he is, underrated. Yeah. I think he would have to be up there.
Yeah, he can do everything. And he's so good at singing and dancing and those roles. And he's so good, like as Ted Bundy.
Like he did just so good in 16 Again, too.
Yeah, and he was young.
Well, yeah, but he played, oh, man, I always forget his name. Matthew Perry.
Yeah, Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry's
Chandler.
Younger self, yeah. So he's just done, he's just good.
Yeah, he's good. So we're in agreement here.
I think
Zac Efron, one of the most underrated actors around today.
Yep.
Yeah.
It didn't take much to push me over there, but
I don't know if that's a hot take. I certainly haven't heard people say it because I'm used to hearing people talk about High School Musical, but
as we get older, that will, like, I'm sure that will age.
That'll change.
Yeah. Age. It'll age into him not being, you know what I mean?
As he does more serious roles,
the further he gets away from
known
that,
for that. Yeah.
I don't know. Have you heard of the younger generations, like younger generations, younger than us generations? Are they watching High School Musical like my generation grew up with? Because you're, I don't want to put you on blast or anything, but you're like older than me.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I don't know if you're in my generation.
Yeah, no, we're probably two different generations.
Because I'm a millennial.
Oh, I'm a millennial. Oh yeah, I'm like right in the middle.
Well, I'm like the baby.
You're the tail end.
Yeah. Well, maybe Cody would be my brother.
Yeah, I don't know the dates, but yeah.
Anyway,
I know a 6-year-old who really likes High School Musical. that's
shout out Lincoln.
Yeah, that's what I got for you.
I don't know. I'm curious because if High School Musical as he gets older and not necessarily known for that.
Yeah, less and less people will think of that when they think of Zac.
He did so good as Bundy.
I need to watch it.
It's so good, man.
Yeah, when I told Katie that opinion, she brought up, well, then we need to watch that Bundy movie. It's like, yeah, we do. Yeah. We do need to watch it.
Now I want to watch that Bundy movie with you because I want to watch you watch the Bundy movie.
Well, then we gotta work out schedules. Maybe we can do it.
No, but we can find a way to, these days, you can do the watch party thing now.
But you wouldn't be able to, I don't know how that works.
FaceTime me and then do the watch party.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just being stupid. But
we can do that. Yeah. We can do that. So do you want to start or you want me to start? WatchWell themes, what we got.
There's got to be something that you can that you can rest your hope on that is not like your work. The biggest thing in the movie was all about him making it and even making it in a way as revenge or like a stick it to the people who told him he's not. And sometimes that can be good motivation and competition and stuff and push you to do the things that you want to do. But eventually that fades, right? Then what?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the kind of my big takeaway was
Next.
Once you do achieve it, or if you don't, then what? Where's your hope? What are you going to put your faith in? Is it going to be the circus? Is it going to be your dreams?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like dreams change. So they're not always there. And then the Bible is definitely, it's just kind of where I took it. It was, there's got to be something that doesn't pass away, that you put your faith in, that you live your life a certain way while you're pursuing these other things, your dreams and, conquering even like business or whatever it may be, a sport. And then your identity doesn't become that. And it's like his identity was like, I have to prove this. I have to work to be someone. That was the constant theme in the movie is like, I'm going to be someone. I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to be somebody. I got to prove it to my wife's dad because he doesn't accept me. My dad was treated like dirt. So I got to, work and do all these good deeds and make a name for myself because my father was treated like dirt and my kids won't be that way. All these things. And he's just constantly trying to justify himself through work. And even if that fails, which it could have failed, are you worthless? I mean, as a Christian, you would say no, right? But that's because your faith is not in that, or like insert whatever there. So I guess that was my main kind of takeaway.
Yeah. So would you say that possibly the scene at the very end when, so like it's the theater burns down, right? And then he says something like, all we need is a tent. And so then it cuts to the circus happening, like the circus tent, right?
Right.
And they're doing the song, The Greatest Show again. And they do maybe about half the song. And then he pulls Zac Efron's character aside and then like gives him the hat. Do you think that that's possibly an allusion to the fact that his identity isn't, he still loves this? Like this is still his creation and his thing, but do you think it's like my identity is not in this anymore?
No, I looked at that as more as like a discipleship kind of moment. I don't know if I looked at it as like I'm passing this off because my identity isn't in this anymore, because I still think that his identity was in his legacy. Like I just looked at it as this is still a priority, but it's not my main. I'm not going to go after it like I was the entire movie, because I love my wife and my kids, and that's where the real stuff is.
And you, like, one of the things that you said was about his need to constantly and continually try to prove himself. The whole thing, my dad was treated like crap. I'm not going to be treated. My kids aren't going to be treated that way, and constantly trying to prove himself to be worthy.
Yeah.
And I think like this is one of the areas where the music and the lyrics to the songs, like beyond just like melody and things, but the lyrics of the songs really kind of reach a different level than what a lot of musicals do. Because a lot of musicals just take what could be dialogue, right? It could just be dialogue in the movie, and then they set that to music.
Right.
But this actually wrote songs that try to convey where the characters are in their story, not necessarily what they're thinking or what they're trying to say. I mean, there's some of that, but it's like, this is not dialogue to song. Right? This is actual song lyrics and well-written things. And that idea of constantly having to prove yourself is probably never more obvious than when the girl is on stage performing Never Enough.
Right.
Right. And then you have the whole audience and that's kind of like the converging point for just about everybody, especially P.T. Barnum. But you have the people that he's invited into the circus who have always felt like never enough because of their quirks and weirdness and things like that. But then you have P.T. Barnum, who's also struggling with that never being enough, always having to prove himself to make him to feel worthy, to feel that he has value, and to feel that his life is worthwhile and successful and all those things. But then immediately following the song Never Enough, he even feels less than he ever has before, because that's the scene where he confronts his wife's dad.
Right.
And that confrontation proves that he's still, regardless of his success,
right,
regardless of how the heights that he's reached, he still feels like he's not enough.
Well, and I think it's also interesting with the irony that he feels less because he's still just the promoter.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the star yet. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? He's like
it's the circus, right?
Right, but it's his circus, but he's not the main person. So he's always promoting someone else that is enough. And he is still kind of back just being the promoter. And I think that is interesting as well. You know, he's listening to the song Never Enough. He feels worse. And he's the one that put her on stage and did all of this stuff, but she's the one getting the applause because she has value. People wanted to come see Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
What was her name?
I don't remember her. I have it right here.
Jenny Lynn.
Yeah.
It was Jenny Lynn. And then you're right. He still wasn't good enough for her dad.
Mm-hmm. But he's the one who started that confrontation, not the dad. So it was P.T. Barnum's insecurity that caused that confrontation. It was his internal feelings of not enough. Everyone was there for the event that he put together, that he promoted, and everyone was there to see him. But then his own insecurities caused him to basically shun the people that helped him get there. His group of people that helped him get there because of the very things that he was using to get ahead. Their quirks are the reason his circus is successful, yet he shunned them from the main room, and the important people, said, you can't come in here, you need to go get to your show, you can't be here, when they tried to get in, right? When they came up because of his own insecurities. Here's the people that I've always wanted to be accepted by, this high-class group. And here I am in this room. I've always wanted to share the room with these people, and as an equal, not as a servant,
right?
Or something like that. And in that moment, he's still as insecure as he was as a little boy,
right?
He's still that same little boy, even though he's achieved what he thought he wanted.
Yeah,
the attention that he thought he wanted.
So where you're taking this is the person that really needed to give him value or to knight him in a way was himself.
Mm-hmm. He didn't recognize any value at all. He was just an insecure boy,
right,
who accomplished some things.
Yeah, an insecure boy that grew up that remained insecure. Yeah,
his insecurity didn't go away, and then because of that, he didn't see how. He didn't see that there was somebody, and there were people in his life that have always seen him as enough. His wife, and his daughters,
and that was,
and then in that moment, that's right, he left them.
Right, and that's right, because it was seen in the wife is the star of the show, really. She's the rock, the bedrock of everything. Because even when, what was the scene when he lost integrity? He bought something? What did he buy? All the shows or something for Jenny Lynn?
Yeah, he took out more loans,
right,
to fund the tour,
and then lost the house and lost all these things. And his wife confronted him and said, I would have said yes. Mm-hmm. But it was the only thing she needed was honesty and to be let in on the journey. All she wanted was a part of it, and she was good.
Which is really perfect, because if you look at the bridge to the song A Million Dreams, all the way at the first scene that she's in, she says, however big, however small, let me be a part of it all.
That's right.
Yeah. So you have that
share your
set
dreams
at
with
the very
me.
beginning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so again, the music is like, it fits and it's incredible, but
like you don't need to, like, to your point earlier when you said you were listening to the music in this car, you don't need the movie to tell the story. You can just listen to the soundtrack, and it is the same story.
It's the same story as long as you listen to it in order.
Yeah.
Don't shuffle.
Right.
Yeah. Listen to it in order. It's the same story. Yeah. And so you have that playing out, and then that was her character's motivation from the beginning. And with that, you could even get into things like she's a wife looking to be a part of an adventure. Not to be the adventure, but to be a part of an adventure.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds like Wild at Heart or something. Like John Elder's book, Wild at Heart. Yeah. Or Captivating. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, where I guess one of the things that really hits me is what, with all the criticism. So I mentioned that I did read some of like the negative reviews and things like that. And in addition to the stuff I've already said, a lot of them also like expressed confusion about why is this movie so loved? Like we don't understand it, and they basically just say, "Oh, it's because it's good music and fun dancing." And they say there's no that's it. That's all this movie has. It's not a film, it's not a story. But then I came across another article, and this was so there's a book called Save the Cat. All right, so it's a popular screenwriting book, and so it really, if you
would know that,
yeah, and I own it. If you,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, if we ever, I know we're trying to do in person, but if we're on virtual again sometime, you'll see behind me. It's actually one of the books that are on my desk, not on purpose, just where it sits. It's right behind me. It's a screenwriting book, and so that author launched a bunch of stuff beyond just the book, and it's all based on the book. But I came across on this is from SaveTheCat.com. That author of that book isn't living anymore, but the website still goes on. And so I just want to read this quote because I think it says a lot about what people are drawn to in this movie. So this is the quote from the article. It says, Blake Snyder wrote that stories need to have a primal element to resonate with audiences. And this is something The Greatest Showman does in the lyrics of every song, leading audience to see themselves reflected in the story. Of course, the film is not an accurate historical representation of the life of P.T. Barnum, but audiences are willing to look past that and see the dreamer in him and how it connects to their own lives. Each song is infused with a sense of having a purpose in life, of being unique and important, despite the world's claims of the opposite. So the real the real focus there from, in my opinion, is that each song is infused with a sense of having purpose in life, being unique and important, despite the claims that the world makes. So why do we have an innate, primal desire or need for those things to be true? Why is it that man has an innate, primal need to have purpose?
I don't know if I like the way you worded it, but I'm trying to sort it out in my head. Because I think the truth is we do have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of realizing that purpose.
Right.
So just because you don't believe you have a purpose does not mean you don't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So it was a leading question. Okay, so leading it to...
So the purpose, we're made in the image of God, and our purpose is to fulfill and fulfill God's will and glorify God, right?
Yep.
And spread the gospel, Great Commission, all these things. Honor God.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Glorify
neighbor,
God.
love self,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
To glorify God.
Right.
But so audiences, critics, a lot of critics
Right.
are
They're confused. They're like, why do we
confused? And if you were to look at the worldview of the audience who are going to see it, they might not claim Christ, right?
No.
They might. You probably have atheists. You probably have almost every worldview imaginable is represented in the group of people who love The Greatest Showman and who have contributed to its box office success and bought it at home and love watching it, love the music. And every single one of them is drawn to the presentation that there's a purpose, even though they themselves deny that there is an objective, true purpose.
Right. So that's
in
kind
the
of
world.
That's kind of back to what I was saying about just because you deny it does not mean it's less true.
So
and Romans tells us that it's written on our hearts, and we suppress the truth in our own unrighteousness. It's chapter 1, verse 18 in Romans. And then if you, that's kind of the basics, the fundamentals, right?
So when we are drawn to stories that so we can suppress things, right?
Yeah.
And I heard Mike Winger give an example of that passage in Romans where he gave the image of trying to like hold a balloon down underwater.
Yeah, that's good.
I've heard that
before. Yeah.
And then every once in a while you're pushing it down and it comes up, right?
Yeah.
And so the truth comes out. Like those are the moments where you can't suppress it. It just comes out, right? So in the way that you live, and there's things that you do that do accord with what's truth, even though you're trying to suppress it in unrighteousness. So when we watch these movies and we are drawn to them and feel connected to the characters because of things like the sense of having a purpose, that's the balloon coming up out of the water.
Right.
The balloon that's being pressed down and suppressed underwater, that's that worldview of Christianity coming out of the water. And the fact that so many people are drawn to these types of stories is either completely vain and meaningless, or it's because we are created in the image of God, who created us to have purpose, to have meaning, to have value, and all of those things. And I would, say that it's proof of the truth of God's creation, which then goes into everything else too. But He has given us purpose. He has given us value. He has given us uniqueness and importance. So when these films draw out, and I think this does do it in a very, like this movie does really...
in an obvious way.
Yeah, in a very obvious way. When that is drawn out of us, what we should be asking is, okay, so where can I actually have that? Right? I have this need in my heart. I don't believe in objective purpose, but when I watch this movie, like that need comes up. Like that desire is like imminent, like I feel it. So where can I find it? And the truth is, you can find it in Jesus Christ.
Right.
You can turn to Him.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
Like it's the only place to find it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, any other place that you, for lack of a better term, place that, it is vanity. It's meaningless because it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, so it's verse 18. So Romans chapter 1 verse 18, and then it gets into a little bit of 19. So it's, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For His invisible attributes, namely His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor Him as God or give thanks to Him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. So that's Romans chapter 1, verse 18 through 23. So that's kind of what we're referencing here, just so that everybody's aware. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of what I talked about in one of the previous episodes, where even if you reject Christ and Scripture, you can't help but appeal to things that only the Christian worldview can explain. So like I said before, it was love, justice, mercy, like any of these things where, like even like empathy, something like empathy. You're like people who reject God and put on like a moral relativist, worldview every day. And then they believe in things like evolution, or they believe in things like, whatever. Let's say, take evolution, for example. And it's like, we come from fish, we, just the mainstream belief, we're just matter acting on another piece of matter. And morality is not objective. Then why love? What is, like, if that's the case, then what is justice? Why does it matter that someone steals from one biological, thing versus another? What are these appeals to anything moral if it is truly relative? Like if your truth is truly your truth and mine is mine, and I'm okay with theft, then it would have to be okay, regardless of what you think. So, like, that just doesn't make sense. You have to have one truth that is objective outside of us, which requires a moral arbitrator that is outside of us. This is just what it requires. And when you said proof, all proof is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Because nothing can be 100% proven outside of the evidence in terms of like video cameras and stuff like that. But like when you do a court case, like when you're going for a court case, the first thing that you look for is evidence of that, and then you use eyewitness testimony and use like stuff at the crime scene and all these things. So when you say prove, all you're looking for is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that this is true. And I believe, like, obviously we believe overwhelmingly that Scripture is true, God is real, and Jesus is who he says he was.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time we watch and emotionally respond on that kind of level, where it's not like because you have two different levels. Like, you can logically think through those things, right? You can, and you should logically think through worldviews and things like that. But when you're watching a movie, that might not be the level that you're responding, and that might not be the evidence that's coming up. Because when you're watching a movie,
it's very easy to just let the movie take over.
And then but you can say, okay, what am I actually experiencing right now? Right? You can, and then that emotion, the naturalness and the ease to which that type of emotion actually comes up and is felt, again, is evidence of the truth and the consistency of what you just talked about.
Hey guys, it's Parker from the WatchWell Podcast. If you liked this video, we want to go ahead and have you subscribe right here on this button. If you want to watch the full podcast episode, go ahead and click right here. And if you want to watch another WatchWell clip, go ahead and click right here. And remember, if you're going to watch well. We'll see you in the next one.